Okay, today the Sunday Symposium is featuring Kai Boyd. And boy, we do know Kai Boyd. He has been a favorite of Oakmont's for years, not to mention the fact that his business is a favorite of Oakmont's for years. Kai is the proprietor of the Rialto Cinema in Sebastopol. And for those who go back that far, he used to have the lakeside, which was a little closer to us, but we don't mind making the trek to Sebastopol when it's available. Kai is going to basically talk a little bit about the business of the movie business, I guess I would call it, as it is today, as it will be in the future, and what's going on that substitutes for our normal talk this time of year, which is what's happening in the Oscars. Before I do that, I'd like to remind everybody that next Sunday, the speaker will be Congressman Mike Thompson, and he is going to share with us his thoughts about what the most important things that are happening in Washington really are. So that should be an exciting and interesting talk. Kai, it's all yours.
Hello. Hi, everybody. Thank you for joining us this morning. As I said earlier, this is the shortest commute to the Oakmont Sunday Symposium I've ever had. I'm in a hotel room in Missoula, Montana. And so it was, from right over there. Anyway, so I know that we've certainly missed seeing all of you at the movies since March 17th. And I hope that you've been missing coming to the movies. It's been very challenging for all of us. And so today I wanted to talk about several things. One of the things is that I don't know how many people realize this, but the Golden Globe Awards are tonight. And there hasn't been a whole lot of press about the nominated films. There's been a whole lot of noise about what's going on with the Golden Globes as an organization, which I'm not going to talk about because I'm not an expert on that. But I am going to talk about where you can see some of the Golden Globe nominated films, because there are some good films out there. And one of the things that I've found for myself, and I hear it from, customers and people I talk to, is that, the whole world of trying to watch movies or television or whatever at home, the streaming world is overwhelming. There are just there's so many providers and so many choices and so much stuff that it can be a real challenge trying to figure out what you want to watch and where you can find what you want to watch. So we'll talk a little bit about that as well. All righty. Let's dive in with what's been going on with Rialto Cinemas. We've been closed since March 17th. Beginning in last May, we started doing this thing we call popcorn pickup. It's every Saturday. It's going to be starting this coming Saturday. The hours change to 4:30 to 7:30. And so if you've been missing movie theater popcorn, we sell popcorn, soda, candy, pizza, sandwiches, nachos. And so we've been doing that. It's a way that we can, engage and interact with our customers. Most of the people we see are Sebastopol based. It's a long way from Oakmont to make the trek just for popcorn, but reminder, we do have really good popcorn. We've also been offering virtual cinema, which is a way that you can enjoy first run films in your home, and the distributors are sharing a portion of your ticket revenue with us. Virtual cinema has its pluses and minuses. It is a great way to get to see a lot of new content that's not available on Netflix or Hulu or Amazon. But as George and I were talking about in the pre-session, it has some technical challenges in that everybody's setup at home is different. You know, some people use Roku, some people use Apple TV, some people have smart TVs, some people use Chromecast, and every distributor has their, uses a different platform, it seems. And so navigating virtual cinema can be a little challenging. So we've been wrestling with that. And then there's just the whole aspect of, the theater. It costs us about $20,000 a month to maintain the theater. That's just rent, utilities, and insurance. And the reason we have utility expenses is because with digital cinema, every projector is a computer with a light bulb and a lens. And then there's another computer, which is called the server, which talks to the projector and provides the content to the projector. And both of those things have very expensive motherboards in them that the batteries need to be charged every single week. So we have to turn everything on and run it for at least 3 hours every single week. So otherwise it dies and isn't useful anymore. So that's been a real surprise. We've been very grateful for the outpouring of support that we've seen. I don't know how many of you know that we're doing a GoFundMe campaign. We're just about at our goal of $125,000. And GoFundMe's been a lifeline. It's been what's kept us going, because we got a small PPP loan in the first round of PPP. And then what's happening?
Somebody is sharing screen. Okay, never mind.
Okay, that was weird. And then there was also the economic injury disaster loan, which provided us with some relief. It's a 30-year loan at a very low interest rate from the SBA. But one of the things we've learned in all of this is, Congress and the president can write a law and sign a law, but how the law gets implemented is really up to various departments. And so, like with the EIDL, even though there was a formula, Treasury put an unnatural cap on EIDL loans of $150,000. So a program that could have been really beneficial for us was not as beneficial as it could have been. But we are cautiously optimistic about the Shuttered Venue Operator Grants, or SVOG. SVOG is something that was part of the final, not the most recent act that they're trying to get through Congress now, but the previous one that was passed in December. And it's grants to operators of movie theaters, live performance spaces, museums, and it's really it'll be a beneficial program that our trade association, the National Association of Theater Owners, has been very active in, working with the SBA and Treasury to get it rolled out. But it's also very complicated, as we're finding out. So we're expecting that they're going to start taking applications for that in April. Originally, it was supposed to be January, but it's just proving very complicated to implement. So because it's going to cover everything from Broadway to people like the 6th Street Playhouse, and I think the Symphony will be eligible. So it's going to help a lot of arts organizations across the country, and it's going to help independent movie theaters across the country. So we're cautiously optimistic about it and anxious for it to roll out. So that's kind of where we are. I did mention the Golden Globes, and just to kind of a little housekeeping, the Oscar nominations will be announced on March 15th this year, which is late. So this year, the Golden Globes are kind of in a unique position, because usually the Golden Globe nominations come out and have some influence on the Oscar nominations. But this year, the Golden Globes will have given all their awards before the Oscar nominations even open up. So it'll be interesting to see what happens. But for instance, for Best Motion Picture Drama, the nominees are The Father, Mank, Nomadland, Promising Young Woman, and Aaron Sorkin's Trial of the Chicago 7. And of those, 4 of the 5 you can watch in your home. Mank is on Netflix. Nomadland is on Hulu. The Trial of the Chicago 7 is on Netflix. Promising Young Woman is a rental. It's an expensive rental, $20, but you can get it from Amazon, Apple, YouTube, Google, Vudu. You know, even though you haven't been able to go to the movies, that you can still see most of the Golden Globe nominated movies. There are some, like The Father, which is distributed by our friends at Sony Classics, who they don't believe in streaming at all. And so it's not available on any streaming platform, you know, or for any rental. So anyway, let's see if we have any questions.
Okay, so just to clarify questions, you can physically raise your hand. You can click on electronic if you know how to do it, or you can type into the chat. All right, and let's see, what am I? Kai, the one question I had was you have operated other theaters.
Correct.
So what's happening to those?
Well, it's pretty much the same situation. We operate the Elmwood in Berkeley, which is in Alameda County, and the Cerrito in El Cerrito, which is in Contra Costa County. And so we're dealing with 3 different county health departments. And, you know, all of them have basically said, you know, because we're in the purple tier, we're closed. And we started doing popcorn pickup in the East Bay in November, at the Cerrito on Saturdays and at the Elmwood on Sundays. And it's been, you know, it's been good. It's been like popcorn pickup here in Sonoma County. It's a way for us to engage with our regular customers. And, you know, and it's great because people come and we get to have, you know, socially distanced, masked conversations with them. And we get to, you know, sell some product. It doesn't really, it covers the product cost and the labor of doing it, but it doesn't really make a dent in paying our rent or anything like that. So it's like I said, it's about engagement. And then we also offer virtual cinema in the East Bay as well. It's basically the same titles at all 3 theaters. And we are gonna be offering, you're gonna see an announcement rolling out sometime this next week. Our friends at By Experience, who is the distributor that we contract with for the Metropolitan Opera Live in HD and National Theater Live and Great Art on Screen, they're rolling out a virtual at-home events platform. And it'll be a little different than virtual cinema because it will be appointment viewing. You'll buy a ticket to stream something at a particular time. Each title will be available for 1 week and will be offered 4 times a day. But unlike traditional streaming, it's a live feed, and so you won't be able to pause it or back up. But it's going to include it's going to include titles from the National Theater. There's a couple of musicals that we previously presented, which I think are a lot of fun that we'll be doing, as well as some of the great art on screen. And they're negotiating with the Met right now about trying to get some Met titles. So we shall see. Stay tuned.
Okay, Lynn, you had a question. You want to tackle it?
Sure. So Kai, once we're back in the theaters, how will social distancing, what will it look like? And how will it be enforced? especially in the dark after the theater?
Well, what we're gonna do is we're gonna go to a reserve seat model for everything. So whether you're gonna come to see a movie or when we get back into the special events business, it will every event will be reserved seating, and we will, you know, the capacity is going to depend upon whatever the state and the county mandates are at the time that we're allowed to reopen. And right now, we really don't see ourselves getting open until probably July at the earliest. You know, you can, in certain areas of the state right now, you can open and operate at 25% of capacity. And that's just not a sustainable model. It's actually more economically efficient to stay closed and wait until the capacity restriction is lifted to 50%. You know, at that point, we can, in the ticketing systems, we can block out every other row, and then we can enforce through reserve seating. You know, if you buy a ticket, you know, for like seat 1, then we can block out, you know, the next 3 seats, which is a little more than 6 feet, to prevent anyone from sitting right there, and there'll be no one directly in front of you and no one directly behind you. And so it's all automatically done in the ticketing system. And it will, so you know, we'll designate where you're going to sit, and then we'll have the map, so we are still going to have the requirement from the ABC where we have to go into every auditorium every half hour and do an alcohol check, and we will just add to that, you know, checking to make sure that everyone is seated where it says on the map that they're supposed to be seated. You know, we've had a bunch of meetings with our core team to figure out, you know, about concessions and lobby space and lobby traffic. And ideally, what we're going to ask people is that when you leave, that unless you need to use the restroom, you leave by the emergency exit for whatever auditorium you're in, so that you come in by the main entrance of the auditorium and you leave by the emergency exit, and try not to have people going back to the lobby as they're leaving the theater, unless, as I said, they need to use the restroom. And the restroom is, you know, there's no way to make the restrooms one-way traffic. There's one door in, and it's the same door to come out of the restroom. So that everyone's going to have to be mindful, and you know, and some of us are better at that than others, but you know, we're gonna try and have everybody, you know, be well behaved. You know, everyone's gonna have to wear a mask. And then if you're not in your theater seat, you're gonna have to wear a mask. If you're in your theater seat, if you're actively eating or drinking, you should, you know, you can take your mask down. But if you're not actively eating or drinking, we've pretty much just come down on the side of you need to be wearing your mask until, you know, the CDC tells us otherwise. So
Kai, I have another question, which I actually had too. Evelyn asks, if you're actually blocking every other row and every third seat, or every, you know, it's hard to get to 50%.
It is. But it's, you know, it's the idea of 50% is that hopefully when there's a significant vaccination penetration, that those 6 feet requirements may loosen a bit, and that may mean we're able to get closer to 50%. So, you know, but right now, where the requirements we have are the 25%, and so we're trying to figure out how to do it with those requirements, even though, you know, like I said, it's probably not financially viable. But we would really like to hold out and wait for, you know, the requirement. I mean, even if it was 40%, it would be better than 25%.
Okay, Peggy, you had a question. I unmuted you, I think.
Oh, thank you. I know the system of voting. You mentioned the movie that is nominated from, is it Sony that does it? The father or
The father, yes.
the father? Well, I don't know about anybody else. I've never heard about this, and now they're nominated.
Welcome to the
but-
club.
Yeah, so I mean, how can they get any enthusiasm, even though we don't vote for it? I mean, I don't get it. What?
Well, the Golden Globes are the nominators of the Golden Globes. It's 87 people that represent the Hollywood foreign press, and they're a rather capricious and infamous group of people. And they get sent screeners or screening links. They also get invited to all sorts of things, normally it would be parties and dinners, but I suspect in this era, it's probably been more kind of, like group Zoom things about, the ability to, talk to, I think Anthony Hopkins is the star of The Father, those kind of things. And so it's a lot of influence peddling. The Golden Globes are infamous for, choosing random things that, put them on the awards season radar. I mean, Pia Zadora was nominated for a Golden Globe. That's, I think, the most infamous example, but
Wow.
there's some every year. And I think The Father is one of this year's.
So what is it about, other than now I know Anthony Hopkins is in it? I mean, is it?
Well, let me
Is it
cheat
a
here and
period?
read a little.
Oh, well, that's okay. I don't want to waste anybody's time.
It's actually, I don't have a plot description of it.
Well, that's okay.
So yeah, I don't know what it's about, and I'm sorry I didn't go out and watch all the trailers, but it's a weird year because we're we're talking about movies that, like you said, basically nobody's seen. So
Kai,
Yeah.
if I think about the whole process of reopening, okay, a lot of the films that were going to have their date, they'd be released during the last year plus, okay, have been held back. Others have
Some of
been
them have
released
been held back.
online. Yeah, some have been released online, etc. Do you have what I would call a punch list of ones that you say, boy, if I could get those for the opening, I would take them? Or are you waiting until we get a?
we're waiting to see when we open what is going to be released, and this is the other tricky part about figuring out when to open, because a lot of the best stuff keeps getting delayed. And right now, except for Warner Brothers, most of the studios have either sold off their titles or they've pushed them into July and into next fall. I mean, next fall is looking very crowded. We could have a really good fall movie season. It's as things progress with the virus and the vaccination, the studios are making decisions based on what is in their own, economic best interest and what's in their contracts with the producers of the films. So, things like the remake of Dune from the director who did Arrival, which was supposed to be an October 2020 film, is now an October 2021 film. And there's a lot of talk about that may not ever show up on HBO Max, that it'll be held directly for theaters, which of course I'm in favor of. At the same time, there's not only, well, we're seeing this in television as well. There's going to be a production problem because there are some movies and television shows that are shooting right now, but nowhere near the level of production that we're used to seeing. And so it's quite possible that we will have some lean times in terms of what, the number of movies that are available for us to show. So it's a dynamic situation that I don't have any answers for yet. I mean, I can tell you that, I was personally really disappointed that Paramount sold off the Trial of the Chicago 7 to Netflix. At the same time, if you've seen Trial of the Chicago 7, it is a really good movie. And I think it's, another step forward for Aaron Sorkin as a director, because he directed Molly's Game was the first film he directed. And Trial of the Chicago 7 is a much bigger canvas that he's working on. And he's really done a good job as a director to tell, a big complicated story in about 2.5 hours. So.
Kai, one of the things we will be doing, we will post the link to your GoFundMe site. Okay.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that.
Which brings me to Harry's question. Do you plan any special recognition for those who participate in crowdfunding?
We're going to do something. I don't know exactly what it's going to be. Obviously, for people who chose to make their donation anonymous, we're going to respect that. But we will probably do some sort of on-screen presentation. Thank you to our GoFundMe contributors and list the names. I don't know that we'll identify them by dollar value like a lot of nonprofits do. We'll figure out something. We have it's either over 1,200 or 1,500 contributors, which is amazing. It's been a really wonderful thing. And, part of the joy of the GoFundMe campaign has also been the notes that people have written us. And I've tried to respond to, all of those personally. And I also have been sending a thank you note to everybody who contributes. So,
okay.
We've been trying to recognize people that way as well. So
one can also imagine you might have some special show that we could all watch. Okay.
Well, but I don't have an auditorium that holds 1,500 people. So we'll have to figure that out. That's
okay.
1,500 socially distanced people. That could take us a while.
Mary Rapp, you had a question. I've unmuted you if you want to ask it directly.
No, go ahead and read it.
Now that first run movie viewing has been decentralized and streamed, is that going to change theater viewing significantly or not?
Well, it's an unknown. I do think that filmmakers are still going to make movies for the theatrical experience. That is still the goal. Nobody's dream is to, I'm going to make a great movie that's available for streaming. It's people, directors and writers and stuff, they want to see, unless they're making a television series, they want to see their stuff on the big screen. And the vision of a film is for the big screen. And so I think that we're going to continue to be relevant. I do think that the types of storytelling that you can do with filmed entertainment, we're living in a golden age of storytelling for filmed entertainment. One of the things that the streaming services have done and cable has done is proven that you can tell compelling long-form stories in a serialized way. And I think that, streaming and television is great for that. Because there are, especially when you're talking about, novelistic adaptations and stuff, it's always been hard to get a novel into a 2-hour movie. There's tons of examples of, movies that are not great adaptations of novels, and there's fewer examples of movies that are great adaptations of novels. So, but I think that there is going to be there's going to continue to be movies that are made, with the idea of the big screen. And before we all got officially started here, we were talking about Alfonso Cuarón's 2018 film Roma. And I think Roma is a good example because everyone I know that loved Roma saw it in a movie theater. The people who didn't like it or couldn't get through it were the people who watched it at home or tried to watch it at home on their televisions. It was the kind of movie that you needed to surrender to the immersive experience of the theatrical setting. And it's interesting because that immersive experience works both for, you know, small dramas like Roma, and also for great big movies, you know, like say Marvel or Star Wars. I mean, I think both those examples are gonna continue to be vital forms of, you know, big screen entertainment. So I'm rambling.
Stop and rambling. Stephanie asks, could you speak for a moment about the black film renaissance?
Oh,
Well, I think that there, you know, I think that there's a renaissance, not just of black film, but also of filmmakers of color, you know, whether we're talking about Asian filmmakers or Indian filmmakers or Native American filmmakers. I think there's a lot more awareness of all of, you know, films from other, you know, from non-white people. And so, but I think the industry still does have a recognition problem. I mean, it's far more difficult if you are a filmmaker of color to get your film financed and distributed than it is if you're a straight white male. That's just the way it is. And I'm not saying that that's good. I think that needs to change. You know, one of my favorite filmmakers is an Indian filmmaker by the name of Gorinda Shada. She made What's Cooking and Bend It Like Beckham, and my favorite movie of 2019, which was called Blinded by the Light. And so, you know, I think that there's a lot of people bringing a lot of attention to the fact that, you know, we need to have more storytelling of people of color, but we also need more people of color working at all levels of the industry. You know, not just in front of the camera and not just writing and directing, but also at every level of production. We need editors of color. We need, you know, sound designers, production designers, all of it. So.
Okay, so I've got a two-part question. First part, mentally backtrack to March of last year.
Okay.
You're shutting down.
Yeah.
What films were you showing that you said, oh my good grief, people won't be able to see this? What were the 2 or 3 most important films you were showing then that you really regretted because you couldn't keep going?
Interestingly, we had high expectations for Mulan, the Disney live action adaptation of the animated film. Not being able to show Mulan was probably a blessing in disguise because the film did not get the kind of reviews or live up to the hype that, you know, Disney was pushing out. I think that's the biggest example.
Okay.
The more pressing question, I think, was, well, what's going to happen to, you know, the May and June, and we just didn't know what was going to happen to the movies.
Right.
And whether they were just the studios were just gonna hold them. And then like Paramount started selling them off. Universal chose to, you know, put out movies like Trolls World Tour, both to movie theaters that were open, but also make them available as, pardon me, $20 rentals. So, you know, there was a lot of experimenting with models, and so release models. So,
okay.
Yeah, I think the biggest disappointments for us were the fact that, you know, the Israeli Film Festival was aborted. The Sebastopol Documentary Film Festival was canceled. I mean, we had all of Sebastopol Documentary Film Festival's films in-house. We were in the process of ingesting them into our system, and we never got to show any of that content. So
Okay,
I think that was probably our biggest disappointment, was for, because those organizations are primarily volunteer run, and it takes hundreds and hundreds to thousands of man hours to put those events on, and it just didn't happen.
Okay, I want you to fast forward now to June, July, whenever it is that you can open with a smile on your face.
Okay.
What are the top 2 or 3 films that have been held back that you'd like to offer at that time?
Well, it depends upon if they're available at that time. I mean,
but for this purpose, assume they're available.
Okay. I would say the Dune adaptation is one of them. There's a Diane Lane movie. Is it Diane Lane or Michelle Pfeiffer? I get it confused. No, it's Michelle Pfeiffer, called French Exit, with Lucas Hedges, that I personally think looks very good and I'd like to see. Those are a couple.
Okay.
I haven't done much really wishing in that department, because the goal keeps moving. At first we thought we were going to get open in June or July, and then we thought it was the end of July, and then we thought it was the beginning of September, and then it was November. And, at this point, we've just kind of been like, we're not getting excited about a particular date anymore. We're just taking it a step at a time.
Okay. Question has been asked. Let me adapt a question that was on the chat.
Okay.
There are other movie theaters here in Sonoma County and other movie theaters that are in the regions where you have a theater.
Yes.
Are you all talking to each other about how you're going to open and when you're going to open, or is that a strictly, mostly hands-off competitive thing?
Well, there's a lot of conversation at the national level and at the California level. I mean, I think most of us are members of the National Association of Theater Owners, and most of us are members of the California Nevada chapter of the National Association of Theater Owners. And, those organizations have been really good about publishing guidelines and standards and soliciting input from us. And so it's not just a collaboration, locally, it's really a statewide and nationwide collaboration. That being said, like in Berkeley, we compete against Regal, which is the nation's largest theater chain, and against Landmark Theaters, which is the largest specialty theater chain in the country. And so we don't really talk to them. And Regal and AMC and Cinemark they've all put out their videos about what they're going to do. We're all I think we're all going to end up doing basically the same things. We all may have our own different little twists on it. One of the things that, when I talked about reserved seating, everybody's in a pod of a different size. And so some people come to the movies by themselves. Some people come with someone. Some people, might bring, mom, dad, and the kids, or mom, grandma, and a kid. So, what we're trying to do is have our reserved seating be dynamic, so that, people who are of a pod can sit together. Mm-hmm. I know some theaters have thought, well, we're going to block out every other seat or every 2 seats. And I've seen some theaters where they physically remove seats. And I think, to me, that's a bad idea, because then you're forcing people to sit in configurations, pardon me, that don't relate to their pods. Right. So that's what we're trying to do it dynamically.
Okay. And that was a question that I did have, was given that you want to go see Mulan with your grandkids and you're comfortable with them being in your pod, you'd sort of like to sit with them.
Yeah, and I mean, I have had some conversations with Dave Corkle at Cinema West, but he's the only local one that I've talked to. Although I've been on some phone calls with some other people. We did a lot of us did what the National Association called a virtual fly-in to lobby senators and congressmen on what was originally called Save Our Stages and became the Shuttered Venue Operator Grants. And so, you know, a lot of us were on conference calls with key staff of, you know, at the time, Senator Harris, Senator Feinstein, Mike Thomas, you know, all of our elected representatives in the US House of Representatives, et cetera. So.
Okay, we're getting toward the end of our normal period. Anybody have a final question or two they want to throw in at this point?
I have a
Okay.
question.
Okay, you got one and then Tina will have one.
Okay, it's just really quick one. Earlier you mentioned when people coming in, they're going to come in from the door inside the theater. When they leave, they're going out the emergency exit. What if once you're in your seat, you decide, oh, that popcorn was so good, I'm going to go get back to another one? Do you have to exit out the emergency room and come back around? Or
no, it's during a movie, you can go out, you know, make sure you have your mask on, but you can go back out and into the lobby and get more popcorn or more wine or more food. We highly encourage that. It's just what we're trying to do is, it's when crowds or, you know, groups of people are entering or exiting an auditorium to have the traffic be one way.
Yeah.
And so that you're not, you know, you're not people going to other auditoriums and you're coming out of this auditorium. People coming in and people coming out of an auditorium, we're not having you cross right there.
Right.
That's what we're trying to avoid. But, you know, individuals during a movie, you know, the hallways are wide enough that you should be able to stay respectfully social distanced apart and still go, pardon me, still go get your popcorn.
Okay, Tina, you had a question.
Yeah, I was wondering, have you seen Hillbilly Elegy? And if so, do you agree with the criticism?
I have not seen the film.
It's Ron Howard, and I was just surprised.
Well, you know, I watched the trailer and honestly, the story didn't intrigue me. I'm very much a storied guy in terms of, I don't necessarily follow movie stars or directors. I watch movies where the story interests me. You know, we all have different routes into film or into storytelling. And so, you know, and I've also just, you know, sort of mentally and emotionally where I've been, I just, in another time I might have watched the movie, but at the time, you know, when it came out, I was just not in the right headspace to do it. You know, and I think that's one of the challenges of a lot of the virtual cinema stuff that's available. A lot of it's really heavy documentaries. And, you know, we've been trying to find lighter things. And one of the things that I'm most excited about that we're going to show in virtual cinema that I wish we would be able to show in a theater is the new documentary called Stray. And it's about the stray dogs on the streets of Istanbul. And it's by the same filmmakers who made the film Kedi about the stray cats of Istanbul. So the dogs are getting their day. So I loved Kedi. I thought it was a wonderful movie. And so I'm excited for Stray. And it's something, you know, there's nothing political. There's nothing, you know, it's just dogs.
When can we see it? How can we see it?
It'll start showing on virtual cinema on Friday, March 5th.
Thank you.
Okay, we had a question about the link to the virtual cinema. We will post that link as well as the link to the GoFundMe site. Okay.
Yeah. Oh, and I have one more link that you might want to post.
Yeah.
There is a fantastic resource. It's called justwatch.com, JUSTWATCH.com. And so, like, you know, let's say you are interested in, you want to see To Have and Have Not. Let's just pick a title. You can go to Just Watch, you can put in To Have and Have Not, and it will tell you which services that movie is on at that time. And it's truly a really valuable tool, because every night since mid-March, I've been doing what we call Rialto Recommends on our Facebook page. And we summarize these on the website and in our weekly emails. And I use Just Watch every single day, so that I know where the movie that I'm recommending is streaming. That being said, I've been surprised at the number of movies that I've wanted to recommend that aren't streaming anywhere. So it's, streaming it's a tricky world, because titles move around. You may see something on Netflix one month, and then the next month it won't be there, but it'll be over on Hulu or Amazon. Or it may just disappear. The streaming is really the Wild West. So Just Watch is a fantastic resource, and it's not just for movies, it also covers television series.
Does it cover, does that cover the, what I would call the semi-legal YouTube recordings?
No, this is only legitimate, properly licensed streaming.
Because we found a couple of things we wanted to watch existed on YouTube if you just were patient enough to find them.
Yeah, I know, but I can't get behind that.
Okay.
One of the things is that, I believe that the creators of art should be paid for their work. And when you're watching something that has been uploaded to YouTube, nobody's getting paid for that. Which is why I support, the legal streaming, through Hulu and Amazon and Netflix and HBO Max and Disney Plus and blah, 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 blah.
Okay, Kai, we cannot thank you enough for your, as ever, enthusiasm and support. And we certainly hope that we'll be seeing you in person.
I hope so too.
Sometime this fall.
I hope so too. And I look forward to coming back next year, and we can actually do this live and in person and talk about the Oscars.
That would be wonderful. Okay, for those who may have missed at the beginning, next week we have Congressman Mike Thompson, 10:30, March 7th. And he will be talking about what he considers to be the most important items before Congress in the Biden administration. See you then, and thank you so much, Kai.
Thank you. Thanks, everybody.